I used to be just like you a few years ago. I was overweight and very shy as well. Never really had any friends. I suffered from mental abuse, physical abuse. So much trauma and a terrible environment which formed me into a terrible person as well. I thought that's how I'd have to live my whole life. I thought I could never change anything about it. Until something suddenly just clicked. Hey, I'm Eli. This is how to live. I only started my self-improvement journey a couple of years ago, but I achieved quite a lot since then. My academic career has been damn near perfect. I've gotten a lot of scholarships, many awards, much praise from my teachers, my peers, my family. And I'm one of the best students of this university right now, despite only having been here for 2 semesters. Even though I had a few pitfalls and a few breaks due to injuries, I've been working out quite consistently. I've built an almost impressive physique, but this is due to my main focus being on martial arts, having even competed in a few amateur matches before. All this while building healthy and stable social connections, improving my social intelligence, my emotional intelligence, and gaining great friends along the way who I can depend on, who I can look up to. If only it was always like this, man. I currently live in Hungary, having grown up in its northern section, in a tiny village, unfortunately surrounded by a ghetto. Being all alone here with my mother was a pretty intense experience. I was surrounded by drugs, alcohol, sex, violence from a very young age. It definitely had its influence on me. I began stress eating and got very overweight, which I was bullied for relentlessly. I was shy. I wasn't confident in the slightest. I didn't know how to defend myself. And in this environment, I was abused, both physically and emotionally. And thankfully, my father has stepped in on a few occasions. Fortunately, the physical side of things was put to a stop right there, but the bullying was still fucking intense, man. Not only that, due to being in this environment for a prolonged period of time, I began to take on the less than fortunate traits. I was acting pretty stereotypical. I wasn't the person you want to be around. Pair that with the trauma of everything I was exposed to, well, things weren't looking so bright. There was only one out for me, one place where I felt safe, where I could express myself, express my thoughts, and be with like-minded individuals. The internet. Well, it had its ups and downs because I met quite a few people there who I still appreciate, who I can still call my friends to this day. And that was, of course, the place where I learned English. I was exposed to basically everything the world can provide. Not only was I exposed to a few less than desirable things when I shouldn't have been, I was shown a few ideas that were implanted within me. I was in a few echo chambers which reinforced some terrible ideas that had formed in my mind. Yeah, I basically became an incel, on top of everything else from before. It was a terrible, terrible part of my life. This all lasted up until I was around 16 years old. And of course, throughout all this, I envied those who weren't like me. I envied those who were fit, who were strong, who were confident, who could get any girl they wanted, who were happy in their lives. But I thought they were just born different, that I had no opportunity to even try to become like them. But as I've mentioned before, this all lasted up until I was 16 years old. Because at the time, I came across somebody who I can still call my greatest friend to this day. Of course, I've met him through the internet. We began to connect on our pretty similar lives. He's gone through very similar physical and mental abuse as I have. He suffered from poverty as well. He's gone through quite a lot, and I respected him for that. I felt like we had a connection. But there was one major difference between us, one major distinction that set us aside. Instead of being a fat, dumb jackass who wasn't doing anything with his life, who was about to become just another statistic, he was actively working towards becoming a professional boxer. That was just insane to me. I couldn't comprehend it at all. How could he work so hard even when life was treating him so harshly? It, it blew my mind. He began to motivate me to move in a certain different direction. He told me to start working out maybe. Just try a few squats at home, why not? It was COVID anyways, I didn't have to go to school, I had the time. So, sure. One day I just started doing some squats. I could barely do like 10 at most. He told me to just keep going. And I thought, I might as well try. If it worked out for him, maybe it would work for me as well. And then every single day I began to do just a few squats. First I could only do 10, but then that number soon grew to 20, 30. And a few weeks later, I was doing 100 squats every single day. Every single day. Wow. That moment was magical. Because that was the very first time I realized that working hard actually resulted in something. Wow, what a mind-blowing revolutionary idea. Wow. Yeah, there's nothing new, isn't it? You know it. You've seen people working hard and achieving things in life, haven't you? Because I have as well. But I wasn't exposed to this kind of impulse before. I haven't experienced it on myself. I realized that maybe hard work could actually lead to some progress. Maybe I could actually introduce some change into my life. I began to do a few more exercises, push-ups, sit-ups. I began to watch how I eat. And slowly but surely I started losing some weight. The thing that felt impossible before was right at the palm of my hand. At the time I also began to go on interest in martial arts. My friend told me to look into Muay Thai. Maybe I could flourish in that a little. And so I did. I began to watch some YouTube videos, and while my form and technique were terrible, I laid some decent foundations. And after COVID, I found out that there was a Muay Thai gym actually in the city that I went to high school to. So I began attending the classes. And I fell in love with the sport. This is how I eventually progressed to actually competing in my few amateur matches. And despite losing, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I loved the process. I felt like I actually achieved something in my life for once. Something that I could be proud of. Something that I was praised for. And then I applied this logic to other parts of my life. If this worked in helping myself, in improving my body, my shape, my health, why couldn't putting in effort work with something else as well? And so I began to study for the very first time in my life. I was a terrible student before. I had horrible grades. I barely managed to pass. But when I actually began to put effort in, things seemed to skyrocket. I began to get motivated. I began to see results because I was the first one in my family who actually managed to get any sort of academic career going. And then the idea had popped into my head. What if I applied to a university? What if I managed to get enrolled somewhere and move away from this terrible environment? What if I could escape everything that's been holding me back and I could actually live how I wanted to? That had lit a fire inside me. That was so motivating. That thought that I could change everything, all the pain, all the suffering, I could leave it all behind. And I could become who I always wanted to be. That fucking changed me. I studied endlessly, tirelessly, every single day for hours and hours on end. And that, as you can see, had its results. Not only did I enroll in the university, I had double of the required scores. I managed to enroll with a decent scholarship, and because my family back home cannot support me financially, I continue to keep up these grades to this very day, because this is how I managed to live. This is how I buy my food, how I keep myself afloat, with all these scholarships. And I can still put away a decent amount of money as well. I'm self-sustaining. I'm free. All this, throwing away my shyness as well. Sure, I still have anxiety sometimes. Sure, these previous thoughts and the fears of failure come up every now and again. But I'm far more confident now. I've built many connections. I've got great friends. Yeah, I've even gone on a few dates. Wow, no longer an incel. Wow. Because I had put the effort in order to learn more about how to socialize with people. How to become the person I always wanted to be. Because before all this, I had never tasted how sweet the fruit of labor really might be. I had never realized that working hard could actually have its results. Because I never had anybody in my life who could show me this example. I had to learn this example all on my own. And you might be in a similar situation as well. These impulses never reached you. These thoughts, these concepts, you never really grasped them. You might not have realized how much potential you could embrace, how much potential you have inside you. All because you weren't relayed these ideas. Because people who hold the power want to keep you stupid. They want to keep you fat, weak, unhappy, and docile. So they have all the power to themselves. And that's what I despise the most. That is the exact reason why I started this YouTube channel and the exact reason I'm talking to you right now. Because imagine if I never started doing those squats when I was 16. Imagine if I was just another statistic. If I never had the opportunity to talk to you. All because I didn't have the knowledge that I needed. You, right now, right here, could do anything you ever wanted. And all it takes is hard fucking work. Of course, it's not going to be easy at all. You won't reach your goals tomorrow, or the next week, or next month, or maybe even a year. But you'll reach it one day. Trust me. I'm the perfect example for that. But I'm still developing as well. And I hope to share my journey with you as I move along the way. And I hope to accompany you on your journey as well. If you ever need any advice, feel free to drop a comment down below, and I'll try my best to get back to you. You might as well like and subscribe while you're at it. Okay, thank you for listening. Thank you so much. Goodbye.